really appreciate you coming out here on this rainy day. And the topic that we have for today is the long-distance caregiver. And it sounds like in talking to you that this is perhaps something that would be a benefit for you,
Yes.
given your current caregiving situation. So long-distance caregiver. So if we can just talk a little bit what that means. I think sometimes caregivers think that if I'm not the one doing the day-to-day, every day in and out caregiving responsibilities, then I must not be a caregiver. But as you have pointed out, you are still doing some of the caregiving responsibilities even from far away, and probably will be doing as you move forward. There's also the part-time caregiver, and those are maybe at a prearranged agreement where maybe you come in on the weekends or during the day or in the evening. So there's really a lot of levels of caregiving, not just the 24/7. So some of our objectives today is going to identify when we need to get involved, know when to get involved, because sometimes that's easier said than done. Helping from a distance, because I think a lot of times in talking to caregivers, they feel very helpless. I can't fly out there every month. What am I supposed to do? And then how to take care of yourself, because everything we do, we want to incorporate some self-care. So this is our roadmap for today.
Okay.
All right? And again, feel free to share and get involved and ask questions, and we're here to answer those. So I wanted to share this quote because I think it's a really interesting quote, and this is from former First Lady Rosalind Carter. It really talks about how at every point in our lives we come across the term caregiving. So whether we will need caregivers, whether we have been caregivers, we really can't escape the term caregiving. So knowing that, it kind of puts us in that frame of mind that, okay, so maybe I'm not a caregiver right now, but what if I am? It's better to know what's out there and what's available. Or what if I need caregiving? How do I want that person to help me if I need caregivers, right? So that's why I wanted to share this quote. Now, can you just guess how many caregivers we have in California?
Thousands. Millions.
So in California, there are 6 million family caregivers. And we differentiate family caregivers and professional caregivers by us, right? Like all of us that are caring for a family member, a friend, a neighbor. Not necessarily that is our profession. So there are about 6 million family caregivers in California. Out of those, how many do you think are long distance? A lot.
Probably.
25%.
Wow.
And this is from the UCLA Center for Policy Research and the National Institute on Aging. So long-term caregiving or long-distance caregiving is very much a job that a lot of caregivers find themselves in. And what's really interesting in some of my classes that I give, sometimes I have people who ask me questions and they'll say, oh no, this is not for me, it's for my sister who's caring for my mom, and she bathes her and she lives with her and she feeds her. I'm not the caregiver. Well, then why are you here? Oh, well, I fly twice a year, or I'll help her from far away. So that's why it is important to recognize that if you fall in this category, that we are also here to help you. Okay? So how do we get involved? And not so much how do we get involved in caregiving, because we're already there, right? But how do we help the situation? So this first bullet point is probably the ideal, right? The care receiver, so in this case, the people that you are caring for, will ask, hey, I need help, I can no longer drive, do you mind taking me to the doctor, to grocery shopping? But sometimes, is that the case, you think? No, right? They might feel reluctant, right? You're encroaching on my independence. What are you doing? Let me drive. So this is one way. Another way might be another family member or friend will share their concerns with you. Hey, I'm noticing that maybe dad shouldn't be driving, right? He's forgetting to stop at a red light. And so those are some concerns. And you might also notice some problem areas, especially when you're visiting that person or when that person is living with you. You know, I don't know if, for example, you have any issues of dementia, but if you notice that the person is forgetting your name, that's a little concerning, right? So then maybe we do need to get involved. So those are just some questions. How, anybody want to share how it is that you got involved? Or what propelled you to get involved?
Her daughter did not want to.
And sometimes that happens. And it's really difficult for caregivers to understand that how can another person who is the daughter or is the husband or is the niece or whatever it is, how are they not involved? Why don't they want to get involved? And there might be many reasons for that, but then you step in and you say, I am going to do this, right? And how many of us studied to be a family caregiver? Right? How many of us have a roadmap or a book that tells you, okay, if this, then that? We don't, so we kind of learn as we go. So it is very problematic sometimes for family caregivers. But the very much the obvious ways that we see for family caregivers to get involved is when there is some self-neglect from the care receiver. Okay? So the person that you're caring for. So this is and I want to really kind of tease them out, each of them, because poor housekeeping. Well, somebody might say, well, I haven't done the laundry in a couple of days. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to, maybe there's trash that's been accumulating inside for a while. Maybe the person doesn't want to go to the doctor. And the appointments come and go, and then there's no follow-up. Confusion, we talked about the name, forgetting the name, or even forgetting how to get home. There's some dehydration, and you might notice physical changes, in their appearance, lack of basic necessities, or poor hygiene. Am I missing anything else? What else do you think might fall under this category? Self-neglect.
Maybe not taking their pills.
Yes.
Not taking care of their pets.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Not taking care of the correspondence. Just the mail keeps accumulating. Bills are not being paid. Their clothes are wearing the same clothes each time you see them. Right?
Phone goes to voicemail all the time. Or it doesn't get answered.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So those are definitely, and you know the person best, you know the situation best, so you might pick up on those things that maybe another person didn't pick up on. So then, of course, this is a big one too, is isolation. Depression and, just self, like if you're feeling very lonely or sad, is not a normal part of aging. So isolation does not need to, a lot of times family caregivers say, oh, well, that's, she just keeps to herself. Well, why is that? Is there a reason for that? Can we make the person get involved in more social activities? So that's also can be a sign of neglect. Okay, so when do you think it's time to talk about this? About everything that we were just covering. About self-neglect, about not being able to care for yourself. When is the time to talk about it? Any guesses? ASAP? Absolutely. ASAP. And the reason why I really wanted to stress this is because sometimes, I know it's not easy, right? It's easier said than done. We don't want to talk about difficult conversations. We don't want to talk about those details or the people that might be involved that are not wanting to take care of our loved ones. We don't want to deal with that emotional turmoil that comes with being a caregiver. So we just kind of push it off. Well, maybe next week when we're all together, we can talk about it. You know what? Let's just wait for the summer because that will give us an opportunity to think about it. You know what? Let's just give it a year and see how it goes. Right? So with everything we talked about, now is the time to do it. Does that make sense? Yeah. How difficult was it to get involved?
Not very difficult.
Oh, no?
Yeah.
It was easy?
Because I flew out there when it happened, and
You kind of just took charge.
I'm a nurse too, so I was taking care of the health parts.
Okay, so it was easier for you to get in. That's good. Sometimes it is, and I think that can be advantageous. I am the nurse. I am the eldest.
With our mother, we had similar issues. It is hard. It's really hard to take away their driving.
Yes.
Because that's their independence.
Their independence. And then you become the bad guy, right? So that's why not wanting to talk about it. I can understand. You don't want to broach the subject. You don't want to be the bad guy. Okay? But how is it that we should get involved? Now, you said you kind of just put on your nurse hat and you just went and you took care of things, right? And other people just see that there's a need and you step up to the plate. Or you say, I'm the eldest daughter, which tends to be sometimes, the case. How do we get involved with so many factors and so many people, in the mix?
Family meeting.
Family meeting, yeah. The first thing is to become a knowledgeable caregiver. Why is it that the person needs help? Right? Your sister, you're talking about your sister, and she needed help, so you got involved. Well, what is it about her care that you will be able to do, or maybe you need professional assistance? So learning more about maybe their situation, their health, medication, treatment, what is it going to look like? If she's from out of town where she lives, is that something that that area has the resources to help? Or is it better if you move them here because you know the area best and you know what's available? Right? So really becoming knowledgeable about community resources, treatment options, doctors, all of that. Making a list of the areas that need to be evaluated. Now, you talked about your mom and you were talking about driving. That's an area that would need to be evaluated, right?
It does need to be with my sister, too.
So then figuring out, is this a temporary thing? She's not able to drive for a little bit, for a short period of time. Or is this going to be a permanent decision? Can we get others involved? Is there a service where your sister can get to and from places because you're here and she won't be because she'll be in another state? So what can we do about that? So it really is making you think about all of these little details. Having a family meeting, which you said earlier, absolutely. How easy is that?
But then there's the poor only child.
The poor only child. Yes, that can also, and I've encountered many only child, adult children who are caregivers, and they actually say, well, I'm doomed, there's nothing I can do, everything falls on me. Not necessarily. What we are here to do is provide you that network of care so that you don't have to do it alone. So that if you have the ability to come here and get connected to our services, then we can help you in different ways and create a care plan that's a benefit to you. So having a family meeting is where you can find out where the gaps are, right? And you can also find out, this is something that I tell family members, you can also find out who is willing to do certain things and who's willing to not do certain things. And it's okay. All of you here are people who have taken charge and stepped up to the plate and are going to figure out how to do it. Not everybody in the family is in that same place. So we also need to learn how to just kind of let that go and say, okay, you're not at the same place I am, but this is what I need from you. Okay? And that leads me to delegating. So if you're taking charge, because you have identified the gaps, you know what needs to be done, right? The person has dementia, they shouldn't be driving, we need to figure out a way. So you've identified that in your brainstorming. So now I need you to help with this, you to help with that, and you to help with this. And I'm going to do this. Okay? Does that make sense? So now how do we help from a distance? What I haven't told you is that I was a family caregiver, and I cared for my great aunt when she had dementia. And I learned as I went, and I became a client of SCRC, and I learned a lot. And throughout my caregiving journey, I realized that I needed help, that I couldn't do it all by myself. And so my brother, who lived in Washington, D.C., so he was the long-distance caregiver. My aunt was here with me, living with me. I needed to reach out to him. And so he had a very specific job. And he was the person that was going to help me with coordinating some of the appointments and some of the, maybe payments that now we can do online and we don't have to actually physically walk into a bank. But he was also my sounding board. And he was also my emotional support. He was also the person that I could call and vent to. And sometimes you need that. You need to be able to scream and shout and not be judged and not be, reprimanded or have the person get upset. It's just you're just upset because of the situation, but you need somebody to validate those feelings. So helping from a distance can mean a lot of different things. And maybe as you're here and you're thinking about this, maybe you make a note of who that person might be for you. Okay? Who's the person that you can maybe think about that you can vent with or can help you coordinate activities from far away. Okay? And you can even schedule like a weekly call with that person. And it's your, Monday morning madness call, whatever you want to call it. Identify which activities can be done from afar. So I gave you some examples, right? Making payments. What else? What can be done from far away? Appointments. Maybe you can set up a phone tree and you can say, okay, this is how we're going to disseminate the news. I'm going to call you, and you're responsible for calling this person, this person, this person. And that way the information trickles down. And you don't have to make 30 calls. You make one. So you could do that. Work on one problem at a time. You're laughing.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't come that way, right? It's a torrent of problems, right? It's every day there are 3, 5, 6, 12 different things that come your way. But it's really important to, in order to avoid feeling overwhelmed, to work at what the problem is at hand. And if you cannot work on all of them, then you delegate. Then maybe she can take on that other problem. Then he can take on that third problem. You're focusing on this one. Okay? Communicate regularly with the primary caregiver. So identify who is the primary caregiver. Are you the primary caregiver? If so, then maybe there's someone who is the long-distance caregiver. So in the case of me, I was the primary caregiver. My aunt lived with me, and I took care of her day in and day out activities. My brother was the long-distance caregiver. And so when I needed something from him, like coordinate, like call, like follow up, then he would do that for me. If it were the other way around, which sounds like it's going to change for you, right? You're going from primary to maybe long-distance caregiver. So maybe it would be important to figure out who that primary on location would be. Because you cannot be there. Right? You don't know how things might change from one day to the next. So identifying who that person is once your sister goes back while you are here. Doesn't mean that you're caring less for that person. It just means that the actual physical activities might change. Provide some emotional financial support if you can't be there. And I understand not everybody can do financial. But in what I mean here, it might just look different for different people. Some people choose to say, okay, twice a year I'm going to come and visit and give you some respite. I'm going to relieve you and you can go do the things that you want to do. Right? You might offer some, if you're coming from a neighborhood where everybody knows each other and you have identified a friend or a neighbor, then maybe you can coordinate with that person to check in on that primary caregiver and offer that emotional support. So there are different ways than just providing financial support. And then schedule regular chats with the care receiver to get a good idea of what's happening. So in this case, it would be for the people that you're caring for. Hey, how's it going? How are you feeling? They might tell you things that are a little different than what you're noticing. They might say, everything's fine, I am great, not a problem, right? But then you talk to the person that's caring for them day in and down, and they're like, okay, she's not doing that, that well, she's not so good. But you at least get an idea, and you kind of put it all together. Or that person might even share something that you weren't aware of. That person might say, well, she keeps giving me steaks, and I'm finding it difficult to chew. So I don't know why she keeps giving me these pieces of meat when I can't chew. And then you might say, oh, we need to change her diet, or at least the way we give her the food. Okay? Any questions? Okay. Research and coordinate. So again, if you can identify someone over in Philadelphia who can assist you as the caregiver to figure out where are some resources that your sister, in this case, can utilize. Transportation, social activities, doctors, anything like that. And you can coordinate those, right? One of the things that I needed to find out was an adult daycare center for my aunt. And I didn't necessarily have the opportunity or the ability, because I was working full-time, to go and visit every site. But I was able to get information through other sources to say, okay, give me the top 10 that are within my 5-mile radius. And so you can do those things, and then you can call. Okay? This is very important, because all of us are doing the best that we can, but sometimes there are things that we cannot change. I don't think when we were growing up we were saying, oh, when I'm a family caregiver, right, this is what I want to do. But you're here in this situation. So what can we do to improve? We cannot change the condition that our loved ones are in, but what can we change about that? Maybe how we approach it, finding more information, becoming more knowledgeable. So I know that sometimes we forget about ourselves as caregivers because we're so focused on the person that we're caring for. But we need to believe in ourselves, right? We have already taken a big step to be a family caregiver. And again, I commend you for doing that. We need to know that we are doing the best. We've never been in this situation. And maybe we have. Right? You mentioned you were there for your mom. I was also a second-time caregiver. As you're thinking, others might think, oh, wait, I've been a caregiver before. But that situation might have been different, right? The circumstances might have been different as well. You're doing the best that you can. Trust your instincts. If you make a mistake, accept it, learn from it. That's the only thing we can do. And don't forget about you. So again, everything we do at Southern Caregiver Research Center includes self-care as a caregiver. It's not easy being a caregiver. I mean, we talked about how many millions of caregivers there are in California. We are here, and I think all of us are caregivers, or have been caregivers. So we need to find ways to decompress. Okay, so before we leave, I want to make sure that you have some idea of how you can do this, okay? So I've made a list. Exercise, eat well, reward yourself, attend a support group, make time for you. Am I missing anything? I'm sure I'm missing it all. What am I missing? How many of you like to read? Go to the movies? Take a walk? Spend time with friends, have some coffee, right? Sometimes, like, my solace is just sitting and drinking my coffee for however long it takes me. right? It's my me time. So all of this is important. Some people find it very beneficial to attend a support group, so you learn from others who might be in the same situation as you are. That's important too, because then you learn about resources. See, this could be a good thing for whenever your sister goes back to that area, that community. Okay? So the best way to be an effective caregiver is to take care of yourself. So before you leave, can you please write down what you will do, that you will incorporate something to take care of yourself. Because when you write it down, it's almost like a step towards that commitment. If you schedule it, right? We talked about coffee, we talked about walking and reading a book. Can you schedule it, and can you say, every morning when I drink my coffee, it's going to be me by myself enjoying that. Not rushing, not multitasking. Or, hey, we all have to take a lunch break, so lunch break is going to be with me. And I'm going to go outside. I mean, we live in San Diego. It's beautiful weather. Well, not so much today because it's a little rainy. But even so, I mean, it's not that bad, right? That we could walk around and kind of just look at the trees, look at how everything looks cleaner, and really enjoy the time being outdoors. And that could be your me time instead of multitasking. Because we tend to do that. We tend to try to maximize our time, but sometimes in doing so, we forget about ourselves. So can you commit to doing that? That's your homework. So all of those who are watching and all of you, if you can just kind of write down one, at least. You don't have to do just one. You can at least do one activity. If you want to do one a day, that's even better. Right? One a day, because if you don't take care of yourself, who's going to take care of you? If you don't become an effective caregiver, then you're going to be an ineffective caregiver because you're going to be stressed. You're going to feel overwhelmed. And then somebody's going to have to take care of you because you cannot care for that person. Right? So make sure you commit and you really schedule it on your calendar. Okay? Now, one of the things that I want to leave you with is all of our service. So I think some of you might be already connected to our services. But if you're not, what is great is all of our services are free. And they are 100% for the family caregiver. So if you're caring for someone who is elderly and frail and needs assistance with at least 2 activities of daily living, like bathing or cooking, or caring for an adult, so over 18, with some sort of a cognitive impairment, then we're here for you. And we're all over San Diego County, and we really have a wealth of resources. We have a library where you can check out books and videos and learn more about dementia, let's say. We have short-term counseling, and it's free, so you don't have to pay for it. These are licensed clinical social workers. Our staff, who are master's level clinicians, also lead some of our support groups, and that is great. And we have legal and financial, so sometimes caregivers have questions about, well, what do I do if I have to place my mom? It costs so much money. Do I need to sell my assets? Well, since we're not lawyers, we do partner with law firms that specialize in that. We provide respite care for our clients as well, because we do understand that you need a break, and we want to make it easy for you to do that. So if this is something that would be beneficial, make sure you keep it in mind as you're talking to your care manager. Education and training is what I do in my department. We go throughout San Diego County doing classes and trainings and workshops. We actually have here, if you want to take some of these. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then this one's one that's coming up. And you can check our website for all of our calendar of events. And we have a workshop coming up on February 23rd. And we have several other classes that are here in the flyer. But again, for those of you who are watching, you can check our website and our calendar for those activities. Employee resources, we understand that a lot of caregivers are working caregivers and don't have time to take away to come to one of our class. So we want to come to the employers to offer this to their employees. So if you know of any employers who are interested in having us come and present to them, like in the form of a lunch and learn, so maybe during lunch and bring your food, and we can do that. Reach to Caregivers, or Calma, is a program that we have that very specifically focuses on caregivers who are caring for someone with Alzheimer's, dementia, or memory loss. And it's a wonderful program because it's actually a series of classes. And at the end of it, you learn more about the disease, but you also incorporate a lot of self-care. And it really empowers the caregiver to continue doing the job of a caregiver. Then Operation Family Caregiver is for military and veteran families who are caring for someone with either TBI, PTSD, or some sort of a physical disability. And again, it's a series of classes that people participate in. So this is kind of in a nutshell of all of our free services. So if you are here, then it's wonderful because you can connect to our direct services. But if you know of someone who might benefit, make sure you let them know. And we can give you more information before you leave as well. But you can also check out our website. Here's actually our contact info, caregivercenter.org. And you can give us a call directly, visit our website. This is our office. And we can connect to people that are in need. So any questions? Yes?
When is the next class?
The next class is February 14th, and it's actually managing the emotional aspects of caregiving. So if you want to bring a caregiver, if you want to bring a friend, or sometimes what I hear a lot from caregivers is, I should bring my daughter, I should bring my son. Bring them. Because especially in this class, the emotional aspects of caregiving, you will learn about what it takes to really manage some of those challenges that people face. And so that when you are in that role of being the care receiver, then that person already understands a little bit more about what it takes to care for you. So we encourage people to bring a friend, especially one that would benefit from our services. Okay? So if there are no questions, then again, we are live streaming, so you could always check back and watch it again, or if you want to look at our website and see what upcoming events and classes we have, feel free and just sign up. And the earlier you sign up, the better, to make sure that we have space. Okay? Thank you.